Tell me a little bit about how Christopher Nolan approached you for this role.
Yeah, well, with Chris, he just, I think I send him a text every week that basically says, still available. And then out of the blue, he called, and that's a great day when you get a call from Chris Nolan.
It's an immediate yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.
Hello there, Price of Reason here with a movie review. It's been a while since we've had original, high-quality, big-budget cinematic releases that are more serious in tone and geared towards adult. Perhaps because Hollywood has become too reliant on franchises and rehashed IPs. Perhaps it's because it's been too busy shoving annoying propaganda down everybody's throat. Whatever the case may be, one thing that has largely disappeared from the cinematic landscape in recent years is more mature, thoughtful, director-driven movies. And if that's the type of movie that you were looking for, I'm happy to report that we finally got that with Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. In this video, I will talk about why I think Oppenheimer is a good movie, but also discuss a few issues that I had with it. And if you like these type of honest, independent reviews, please make sure to subscribe and get notifications. Oppenheimer's general plot focuses on the complex history of Robert Oppenheimer, who is credited with inventing and supervising the creation of the atomic bomb for the United States, something that in 1945 would effectively end the Second Big War. In the movie, we learn of Oppenheimer's personal and political background prior to the war, the challenges that he had faced during the process of creating the bomb, and how his work would ultimately affect him and the entire world. Let's start with what I liked about the movie. Number 1. Christopher Nolan. These days, aside from maybe Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino, there aren't many Hollywood directors apart from Christopher Nolan that are still afforded big-budget financing and creative freedom by major studios for original dramas. And Christopher Nolan uses the tools given to him to present his movie exactly the way he wants, in a grand, stylish, and unique way. Whether it's the storytelling, the clever shifts between timelines and locations, set designs, quick pacing, or just the great performances he gets from his cast, Nolan's Oppenheimer feels different than any other historical drama I've seen to date because it's based on a true creative vision from an actual auteur filmmaker. This movie wasn't written by a marketing committee and didn't have a bunch of corporate suits overseeing a million reshoots or selling toys. While based on an existing book, the screenplay was actually written by Christopher Nolan himself, who also produced, cast, and directed the movie. That's why you can always tell that there's a steady creative hand guiding it, and cinematically, it's really a breath of fresh air. If you're a fan of Nolan's previous films, I would say that he manages to revisit some of his best past techniques and themes while still making Oppenheimer feel like something new and fresh. The timeline shifts reminded me a bit of the ones in Memento. A few instances of narrative ambiguity and reveals towards the end of the movie reminded me of movies like Inception or The Prestige, while some of the moral questions raised in the movie even reminded me of the themes explored in The Dark Knight. Again, this movie is very different in nature than all of those other Nolan films, but you can clearly still tell that it's made by the same filmmaker, and yes, that is a compliment. Number 2, the cast. In addition to the credit Christopher Nolan gets from big Hollywood studios, Nolan also is well respected by most top-tier actors who are all very eager to participate in his movies and are usually even willing to take major pay cuts in order to do so. That's why Oppenheimer boasts one of the best casts I've seen in a film in many years. Whether it's major roles, supporting roles, or even blink and you missed it roles, almost every actor and actress we see in this movie is considered of high quality acting-wise. Cillian Murphy, in my opinion, gives a career-best performance as Oppenheimer himself, and it's nice to see the actor finally get a high-profile leading role in a quality movie. Whether it's in scenes with very much or very little dialogue, Murphy's line delivery and facial expressions really convey what the character is thinking and feeling at any given moment, and I believe that this really helps viewers connect with him. Matt Damon brings some charm and levity to his role as General Groves, and it provides a nice counterbalance to Murphy's more serious performance. I've always been okay with Matt Damon, but over the years, I think he's really improved his skills as an actor, and this movie is a good example for that. I've always rated Emily Blunt as an actress, and in the supporting role of Kitty, Oppenheimer's wife, Blunt provides as much depth as she possibly can. There are many smaller appearances in the movie by high-profile actors like Kenneth Branagh, Florence Pugh, Rami Malek, Gary Oldman, to name a few, but for me, the acting MVP of this entire movie has to be Robert Downey Jr. As government official Louis Strauss, this has to be one of the best performances of Downey's already impressive career. Downey completely transforms himself into this slippery character who crosses paths with Oppenheimer, and it's nice to see him take on a more serious role for a change after years of more lighthearted fare. I also want to give actor Alden Ehrenreich an honorable mention here. The actor's career took a real hit after the failure of Kathleen Kennedy and Disney Lucasfilm's Solo movie, but I've always maintained that Ehrenreich himself is a decent actor, and he shares some good scenes with Robert Downey Jr. in this movie that really show that he actually does have something to offer when he's actually given good material to work with. Number 3, the visuals. Whether it's the sets, wardrobe, or just overall atmosphere, I think Christopher Nolan really manages to recreate the different historical eras that are covered within this movie. It's also nice that he insisted on not using CGI visual effects, but rather practical effects in this movie, including for the climactic bomb scenes. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, too many movies these days rely on computer-generated images, and even though they look impressive, there is something about them that often comes off as unbelievable or cartoonish. While Oppenheimer isn't necessarily an effects-heavy production to begin with, it's still nice to see that Nolan went the extra mile, and the effects actually do look very realistic. Now, while I generally liked Oppenheimer, as it is well made and it tells an important story within American history, I can't say that I didn't have any issues with it at all. As much as I enjoyed the whole cinematic experience of it, and was intrigued by the movie itself, I think that the movie suffers from being both too long and too short. And if that sounds confusing to you, I will explain. This movie has a lot of historical ground to cover story-wise within its very long 3-hour runtime. The problem is that in order to fit so much story into the movie, everything we see happens at a very quick pace. Perhaps at times too quick, and that gives us much less time to really absorb and reflect on what we're seeing. Watching this movie, I couldn't help but feel that this story and subject matter would have likely benefited from being an 8-part miniseries rather than a 3-hour movie. Now, don't get me wrong, I would still want Christopher Nolan as producer, writer, and director of the miniseries as well as this exact cast. It's just that I would have liked to have spent more time with these characters and not necessarily seen everything unfold in one 3-hour sitting. On the flip side, if Oppenheimer was an episodic miniseries, we couldn't see it in a theater, and that would definitely diminish the whole viewing experience, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. I've been told that if you learn some historical background info about Robert Oppenheimer's life prior to seeing the movie, it helps make the events of this movie flow a bit better pacing-wise, and perhaps that's true, but that's really up to you. In any case, I would still recommend seeing this movie as it covers a topic that isn't often seen or discussed in other movies. The atom bomb was a historical event that still has impact over our world today, and it's interesting to learn about the type of moral and scientific dilemmas its architects had gone through both during and after the war. Overall, Oppenheimer is a quality movie on a level that we rarely see from Hollywood these days. I will probably have to watch it again sometime to fully process it, but I'm still happy that I went to see it in the theater, and if you're especially interested in American history, I think that you'll enjoy it as well. What did you think about Oppenheimer? Did you love it? Feel free to let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and also clicking on that wonderful notification bell. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.